Hello, thank you for joining me. My name is Fahad Kabir, and today I will be sharing my presentation about hip hop music and protest. The purpose of this presentation is to explore hip hop's relationship to the American power structure through rap music. Towards that end, this presentation will also seek to explain the origins of hip hop and how it relates to protest, and by extension, the purpose of hip hop and rap, the perceptions that surround hip hop, why they might exist, and how they can and maybe should be changed, and the importance of understanding hip hop as a genre and the messages in rap music, even if you do not enjoy the music itself. I will then analyze some lyrics from a selection of 5 songs to highlight the protest related messages in rap music. But first, just a brief definition. What is rap and hip hop? Hip hop music is generally identified by the rhythmic beat. It could be identified by this distinct style and rhythm when listening to the musical production. Hip hop is both a genre of music as well as a subculture of mostly African American and Hispanic origin. Rap music is the central music and arguably the overall core of hip hop, but the two words are often used interchangeably. For the purposes of this presentation, the two words will represent the same thing. Hip hop now dominates the mainstream, as I'm sure most people can tell. The radio, commercials, shopping malls, sports venues, they all play hip hop music. Many of the most popular songs in the US today are hip hop songs. It's been called, even by experts, one of the fastest growing cultural phenomena in the world. Origins and purpose. Hip-hop was born out of the civil rights era. The Black arts and Black power movements set the foundations for hip-hop, where protest poetry performed over music such as the works of Gil Scott-Heron were being produced, as well as other types of Black art. Hip-hop is often influenced and built off the Black community and other minority communities' anger against the system, as can be seen in many rap lyrics. Police brutality, economic unfairness, and many more transgressions against these communities by the government and power structure spurred the creation of this protest music. Thus, hip-hop and rap become the avenue in which oppressed voices can be heard. People are able to vocalize their complaints and woes in their rap songs, and according to some experts, the genre of hip-hop is like a magnet that attracts those who wish to protest and be heard. Hip-hop is often used as a tool to highlight problems and, in some way, to effect change for the better by giving attention to the hardships disadvantaged communities face. The subjects presented in rap are extremely contextual and make the most sense to people of those communities. Since its conception, and until this very day, hip-hop is commonly used to highlight the difficulties, violence, unfairness, economic turmoil, criticisms, and even empathy regarding the Black community and other disadvantaged minority groups. The historical and current perceptions regarding hip-hop. Firstly, the thing that must be mentioned is the fact that, since its conception, rap music has been vilified by the white media that is wielded by the white power structure, and even just older generations of people of all races. There is near constant outcry, even today, from some groups of people who believe hip-hop music holds no artistic merit and is little more than noisy nonsense. Historical perceptions of hip-hop are generally rooted in racism, according to some experts, such as the experts from the Journal of Black Studies. There is an arbitrary moral high ground that is often applied by rap's most vocal critics. They seem to think that they are above rap. Some of this may be due to the natural human reaction to dislike anything that seems drastically different than what one is used to. For rap, it isn't just the music, but the entire way of life that is different. What rap artists talk about, the way they speak, the profanity, the context, the subjects that are represented, all of these are completely different than what the white power structure of the country can relate to. All of these are more representative of the poorer minority cultures. Now, not all negative perceptions of hip-hop are racist, of course. There are very valid reasons to dislike the genre. However, it is important to realize the racist history behind the treatment of Black and minority culture, and how prevalent that has been for literally this country's entire history. There are many misconceptions about rap music regarding subject matter and message due to misinterpretations of lyrics. Oftentimes, there is too much attention given to the superficial characteristics of the genre or a given work. This also may go hand in hand with the point about long-standing racist perceptions. There are many people who point out the gratuitous use of the N-word, profanity in general, violence, drugs, and cite these as a reason that rap is inappropriate and damaging. However, these people often fail to understand the context in which these works were produced. Like most works of art, rap music isn't necessarily meant to be didactic, but represent the artist's experiences and passions. Why be so averse to what real poor brown people have to struggle through? Why be offended by the way Black people talk? There is no inherent reason that profanity lessens something's artistic value. Violence, drugs, and such exist in some of the finest books and most artistic movies as well. Why the double standard? Rap artists often grow up in or around difficult situations and impoverished communities, and their work reflects real-life experiences and thought processes. To focus and get hung up on little vulgarities is a fault of the listener if that listener cannot understand the rest of the work in its context due to being blinded by their offended sensibilities. It is okay to not like something, but it would be well to analyze your biases and attempt to understand it, and then make the logical decision to not like that thing. Now, some might wonder, if all this is true about the media in hip-hop, then why is there rap playing everywhere I go? Well, the corporatization of hip-hop and Black culture and minority culture is also a reason people may perceive the genre negatively. Because hip-hop is extremely popular, corporations naturally try to capitalize on this. Again, this is purely economically fueled. These are corporations who might funnel money into the government in order to influence policy that pads their wealth and negatively affects the Black community, but they'll use LeBron James in a rap song for a Sprite commercial and slap on a Black Lives Matter hashtag. Some call it exploitation of Black culture. This corporate hip-hop, mass-produced and simple enough, is often seen as banal and empty. It can be argued that the mainstream and corporate entities intentionally keep the more profound protest rap at bay, as these are works that are challenging to the power structure. As the genre is flooded with this type of commercial rap, listeners may form an unfair idea of how all rap music might be, even though no genre of music is completely homogeneous. Why is it so important to understand hip-hop? In general, gaining a new perspective helps combat ignorance. By understanding the messages in hip-hop, a person could gain better insight on the messages rap artists are actually delivering to their target audiences. By understanding the messages of a protest, a listener might be more keen to notice all the hardships disadvantaged communities face or the unfair treatment the power structure gives to them. Simply by understanding a rap song's true message, one can open their mind to problems they have never seen, but others have always seen clearly. An understanding and analysis of biases could help the racial divide in this country, if only everybody could understand one another and be on the same page. And, according to some educators, hip-hop can be a valuable tool in reaching and relating to minority students in school environments. If the contexts and messages of social justice are explained and the framing of a hip-hop song is appropriate for the setting, rap music can get students engaged and passionate. I will be analyzing 5 different songs from 3 different artists in order to highlight and explain the social justice messages present. I will also explain how the lyrics can be misinterpreted and how understanding the true message is important. I will be covering Rapper's Delight by the Sugar Hill Gang, The Blacker the Berry and Sing About Me I'm Dying of Thirst by Kendrick Lamar, and Soldier's Revenge and Changes by Tupac Shakur. Rapper's Delight by the Sugar Hill Gang. Let's go ahead and listen to a brief snippet.
I said a hip hop, the hip it, to the hip hop. You don't stop the rocker to the bang bang boogie. Say up jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie to beat. Now what you hear is not a test. I'm rapping to the beat. And me.
This song, Rapper's Delight, is commonly touted as the very first rap song ever published. The Sugar Hill Gang was a trio that formed out of New Jersey in 1979. This is a populist song and genre created by minorities, which is important for representation. And this is the very beginnings of hip-hop and rap's fast cultural expansion. This is a fun, lighthearted party song made to dance to. It highlights Black culture and minority culture in daily life as seen in its references. However, even within simple, fun hip-hop songs like this, there are messages of protest in the way you can analyze this work's relationship with the existing white power structure. Let's go ahead and analyze some of the lyrics. Over on this side, on the left side, for this verse from Rapper's Delight, it can be seen many references that are more indicative of minority urban cultures rather than the white power structure. And independently, each reference may not look so, such as referencing Muhammad Ali, dressing really nicely, having nice cars, a Lincoln, Cadillac, watching the Knicks play basketball, and this pursuit of money and the idea that you would not give that away because you worked hard for it. Again, individually, these things are not necessarily indicative only of Black or minority culture, but together these are all things that minority cultures can resonate with more easily. On the right side, over here, we have this funny, silly little situation in which the rapper, the narrator of this, meets a young female reporter who is attractive, and she happens to be Lois Lane, which is the girlfriend of Superman. And the rapper is trying to convince Lois Lane to go home with him. And he insults Superman and says the Superman can't satisfy her. And essentially, in this feel-good, fun, dancing song, there is a Black man who is essentially stealing away a white woman from a white man. It's a subversion of the power structure. And not just any white man, but the most powerful white man that can ever exist, Superman himself. So again, even in fun, lighthearted songs, there is definitely references and elements of protest and rebellion. The Blacker the Berry by Kendrick Lamar. Let's give a little listen.
I'm the biggest hypocrite in 2015. Once I finish this, witnesses will convey just what I mean. Been feeling this way since I was 16. Came to my senses. You never liked this anyway. Fuck your friendship, I meant it. I'm African American. I'm African. I'm black as the moon. Heritage of a small village. Part of my residence.
So, The Blacker the Berry. The name comes from a novel with the same title, written by Wallace Thurman in 1929. This song thematically connects with this novel. The novel was about a Black woman who internalizes racial biases against people with dark skin. This song explores the complicated nature of violence both against the Black community and within it, alluding to similar internalization happening today. Kendrick Lamar is one of the most influential faces of hip-hop and the Black community today. He is praised for not only his musical prowess, but his writing ability and conscious subject matter. The violent lyrics in this song have a context that is important to understand. Without it, the work may be perceived as hateful, inappropriate, or glorifying violence. This song particularly was influenced by the killing of Trayvon Martin. Once again, this song was created from a sense of outrage in order to provide commentary on a social issue. Let's take a look at some of the lyrics. Over in this first verse on the left of Blacker the Berry, you can see how it begins. This song is essentially Kendrick Lamar angrily accusing the American power structure of blatant racism and how the American power structure wants Black people in the Black community to fail. And this is a song of both pride, frustration, and outrage at the treatment of the Black community. You can see here, it says, been feeling this way since I was 16, came to my senses. You never liked us anyway. Fuck your friendship. I meant it. Who he is talking to is essentially America and America's power structure, right? Over here, he also utilizes a bunch of harmful stereotypes, racist stereotypes, and owns them, essentially saying, oh, I know that this is what you think about me. You hate me, don't you? But I will be successful nonetheless, and I will fight you, right? Right here, racist stereotypes. Here as well. It says, you vandalize my perception, right? Can't take style from me. Again, he is speaking about the essential character assassination that the media may do on Black communities. And so people have a unfounded racist perception of Black people in that community. On this side, he's further talking about the hardships that society puts Black people through, talking about fake prophesizing, saying that he's just going to be another slave in his head, institutionalized manipulation and lies, just the kind of information that the Black community and minority groups get from the government can't be trusted, and the way that the government treats these people is wrong. It's clear to Kendrick in this song, to the narrator, that America does not want to see these people succeed. The next song is also by Kendrick Lamar, Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst. Let's give a brief listen.
Sing about me, promise that you will sing about me. I woke up this morning and figured I'd call you in case I'm not here tomorrow. I'm hoping that I can borrow a peace of mind. I'm behind on what's really important. My mind is really distorted. I find nothing but trouble in my life. Unfortunately.
In this 12-minute track off of Kendrick Lamar's Compton Story album, Good Kid, Mad City, the listener is exposed to the sadder side and repercussions of violence in gang culture. The song is told from the perspective of a few different characters, each who have their own life contexts, and these exact words do not necessarily represent what Lamar thinks. Instead, Lamar uses them as rhetorical devices to frame different perspectives. This is a song meant to be somber and evoke longing, sadness, and nostalgia. Again, the song can be taken for glorifying violence if misinterpreted, rather than the intended effect, which is the opposite of that. It's to bring awareness of the darker side and self-awareness that a lot of people growing up in this situation have. And this song tells about the impoverished minority experience in many places, the concept of gang life and the awareness and hardships that come with it. Now let's go ahead and analyze the lyrics. Over on this side, as we heard this section through the snippet, Kendrick Lamar is rapping from the perspective of a different character, of one of his companions that he knows from Compton, where he grew up. Immediately, it says, I woke up this morning and figured I'd call you in case I'm not here tomorrow. This mixed with, this orphanage we call a ghetto was quite a routine. This is painting a picture of a dangerous gang life. These people live in the ghetto, in rough neighborhoods where gang activity is rife and bustling, and it's clear that it's a dangerous place where they might die at any time. And this song is actually talking about a situation where this speaker, his brother, was killed in gang violence, and he is talking to Kendrick Lamar and thanking Kendrick Lamar for his care and pleading that Kendrick Lamar remember him and remember his story and sing about him. Thus, the name of the song, Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst. So here you could say, I know exactly what happened. You ran outside when you heard my brother cry for help, held him like a newborn baby and made him feel like everything was all right. But the type of bullet that stuck had went against his will, that's blood spilled on your hands. So here is the depiction of someone dying, but instead of the normal glorification of violence, it's instead a very sad depiction. Held him like a newborn baby, made him feel like everything was all right. It's clear that someone was destroyed, a life was destroyed in this situation, and people are grieving. Now, the effect this has on the narrator, the brother of the victim, is that he goes on a path of vengeance. His plan's rather vindictive. When I ride, it's a murderous rhythm. And outside became pitch black, a demon glued to my back, whispering, get him, I got him. So, saying immediately he was filled with the rage and knew that he would have to go and kill the person that killed his brother. Said, I got him and I ain't give a fuck. He killed him and he didn't care. That same mentality I told my brother not to duck. In actuality, it's a trip how we trip off of colors. So in this, he's saying this is the mentality he told his brother to have, is this tough, fight them back gangster mentality. However, in actuality, in this narrator's mind, he is aware that it is strange that people kill each other off of what colors they wear. He is referencing Crips and Bloods, blue and red. So this shows a level of self-awareness from the side of gang violence, knowing that this is wrong. This character then shows some sort of desire to not be in the gang life, right? I wonder if I'll ever discover a passion like you and recover the life that I knew as a youngin'. But then he goes and says, blank, like him, never prosper. And he eventually accepts this gang life as part of his identity, knowing that he is different than Kendrick Lamar. And so this gangster side of him will be with him forever. He then expresses his love for Kendrick Lamar and says that, and pleads Kendrick Lamar once again to tell this story. And the last line of this verse is, and if I die before your album drop, I hope, and then there are gunshots in the music, signifying that the speaker was shot to death mid-sentence. And it actually ends, and if I die before your album drop, I hope, gunshots, and then it goes into the chorus, promise that you will sing about me. Soldier's Revenge by Tupac Shakur. Let's take a listen.
Mr. Shakur, can you please explain the meaning behind your violent lyrics?
Explain the meaning. Fuck these niggas talking. Damn.
Freeze! I said freeze, you forever black son of a bitch!
My attitude is shit. My message to the censorship committee, who's the biggest gang of niggas in the city. The critics or the cops, the courts or the crooks, don't look shook, confused. Take a closer look. Niggas get their neck broke daily, trying to stay jail free. What the fuck does quail knowing young black whales? Please tell me. Message to the censorship committee, who's the biggest gang of niggas in the city.
Tupac Amaru Shakur is one of the biggest single influences and pioneers of rap and hip hop, though shrouded in controversy for his supposed glorification of gang culture and violence. Shakur was closely connected to the Black Panther Party, which many people do not know. His mother, grandparents, and godfather were all members of the party. Many believe that there was a campaign of character assassination against Shakur in the media due to these connections and his anti-government messages. Tupac was extremely distrustful and angry at the American government, as seen in his song Soldier's Revenge. This song is clearly violent, mostly against the government and police, because Shakur believed those entities to be targeting him and the black community specifically. Now, this song came out during the height of the gangsta rap phenomenon in the 90s. And on the surface, it is an intense song that calls for violence, but it is laced with a political message. Let's take a look. There was actually a satirical skit at the beginning that is a little difficult to hear, in which an interviewer, sounds like a white man, says, Mr. Shakur, can you please explain the meaning behind your violent lyrics? This shows that Tupac, the fact that he put this in the song, he's aware that there is some controversy regarding his music. Tupac in this skit facetiously, in my opinion, satirically responds, explain the meaning? The fuck these blank talking about? This implies that he doesn't know about any meaning, explaining the meaning behind his violent lyrics. They don't really have a meaning. However, this is facetious, I believe, because when reading Tupac Shakur's lyrics, it's clear that there is a political commentary. Over here, it says, my message to the censorship committee. The censorship committee likely alluding to the fact that people find his music problematic, as mentioned up here. Who's the biggest gang in the city? The critics or the cops? The courts or the crooks? Don't look so confused. Tupac is equating critics, police, courts, and criminals. He's equating all of those, saying that critics, cops, and courts are also crooked, like gangs. Take a closer look. Now, the most overtly political line here must be the mention of Quayle here. Quayle being the vice president at the time, George H.W. Bush's vice president. Tupac was very anti-government and was not happy with the status quo and how black people were being represented and how they were being treated in the government. As shown by this line, what the fuck does Quayle know what young black males need? Over here, these lyrics go by the point of which Tupac Shakur and other minorities believe that they are targeted unfairly by the police. And this is Tupac saying that cops pull me over, check my plates, but I'm legal. And cops on my back just because I'm black. Clearly just being harassed purely because of race. The main refrain, the main chorus of the song, repeated over and over near the end, is this right here. Fuck 'em, can't find peace on the streets, tell them get a piece, fuck police. And this is repeated over and over again. And this is why the focal point of the song sounds very intense and very violent, anti-police. Sounds scary. However, to place this in its proper context shows a frustration at how black people in these communities are being treated historically for years and years and generations by the police and by the government. So these kind of violent lyrics comes from a frustration from these situations that have existed, these institutionalized racist situations that have existed forever. One last throwaway line that is essentially just said, not even rapped in this song, is, they finally pulled me over and I laughed. Remember Rodney King, and I blast on his punk ass. Essentially, Tupac is saying, they pulled me over and I remember that Rodney King was killed regardless of doing anything. So because they pulled me over, I might as well shoot him. shoot the police officer. That's what he's saying. Again, this is all, this may still be inappropriate to some people, but at least understanding the context of where Tupac Shakur came from and the situation he was raised around, and the message he actually has, the political messages, the song makes much more sense rather than just being seen as a cry out for violence and crime. Changes by Tupac Shakur. This song is very tonally different than the previous one. Let's take a listen.
Come on.
I see no changes. Wake up in the morning and I ask myself, is life worth living? Should I blast myself? I'm tired of being poor and even worse, I'm black. My stomach hurts, so I'm looking for a purse to snatch.
So although this song is very tonally different, many of the political themes remain. Despite Tupac's many controversies and imperfections, he was, according to some experts, a voice that expressed the hopes, aspirations, worries, pain, suspicions, and experiences of young people in disadvantaged communities. This song is more positive and less angry, violent, and intense than some of his others. It seems to be a song of wistful hope, directed at race relations, economic prosperity, and empathy between all people. It directly tackles issues such as drugs, violence, and police brutality, and explains the context of crime in impoverished neighborhoods. Let's analyze the lyrics. Immediately opening the song, Tupac starts off with a kind of grim picture of the world. He says he sees no changes, and he immediately confronts himself with some depressive ideas and depressive tendencies. The question, is life worth living? Should I blast myself? He's clearly faced with some sort of depression. And this is significant because before this, gangster rap, which was popular at the time, was normally equated with this kind of brash machismo. And Tupac was one of the first rappers to start showing a deeper well of emotion. He then talks about lines that are narrative about being poor and black in America. He says, I'm tired of being poor and even worse, I'm black. My stomach hurts, so I'm looking for a purse to snatch. He is implying that the reason for doing some crime, such as a purse snatching, is because of hunger. It's out of necessity. The next few lines are about police brutality and the ever-relevant idea of black people dying by the hands of police and becoming an icon. You have Rodney King, which happened when Tupac was alive. You have Trayvon Martin, George Floyd, of course, and it just seems to keep happening. And then a commentary on the politics and economics of the world. Give the crack to the kids, who the hell cares? One less hungry mouth on the welfare. This is in quotation marks. Tupac is essentially saying that this is the opinion of America in general, the American power structure. No one really cares. The next few lines are narrative of the American government's very extremely suspect past of sabotaging black communities by shipping drugs into them, shipping crack cocaine and such into black communities to sabotage them. And then he talks about political leaders, black political leaders, being randomly killed in the dark. And this is the implication that the government is somehow responsible for the killing of like Black Panther leaders and similar figures. In this section, Tupac begins to champion for some sort of positivity and change in how people see each other. Learn to see me as a brother instead of two distant strangers. Right? He believes that there won't be any hate or turmoil if everyone is close to each other. However, in the next verse, he still sees no changes. All I see is racist faces. Misplaced hate makes disgrace to races. So he's saying that all this hate based off of race is misplaced. It's ridiculous and absurd. And he believes that you could take the evil out of people. He believes that there is some sort of hope, and he wants to see change, and he wants black and white people both to come together, and he wants the American system to start taking care of its citizens. Interestingly enough, he says, although it seems heaven sent, we ain't ready to see a black president. Of course, Tupac died many years, over a decade before Barack Obama became the president. Yeah, here he is talking about the imbalance of how many black people are in the prison system. He's critical of the prison system. The penitentiary is packed and is filled with blacks. And the last point I want to make right here is, again, similar to the My Stomach Hurts, I'm looking for a person match. It's kind of almost a justification of, but not even a justification, more of an explanation of crime in impoverished communities, right? It says, you got to operate the easy way. I made a G today, a G being a grand, being $1,000. I made a G today, and Tupac says, you made it in a sleazy way, selling crack to the kids. And the man replies, I got to get paid. And Tupac gives in and says, well, hey, that's the way it is. Saying that is simply just how the world works today. If you don't get money, then you can't live. So people turn to crime and sell drugs, along with this point about the government introducing crack to these neighborhoods. He's saying this is the system which black people live in, and it's just the way it is right now, and he wants to see change. But for the time being, there's no change coming, and so these things are continuing to happen. Now, to review this presentation, hip-hop was born from protest in the civil rights era. It was birthed out of the influence of the Black Arts movement and Black Power movements in the 1960s, and is fueled often by the frustration and outrage against the American power system. Perceptions surrounding hip-hop should be thought out and analyzed because they are historically rooted in racism, ignorance, or corporatization. Although not all perceptions are rooted in racism, not all negative perceptions are rooted in racism, it is important to always remember this country's long history of unfair treatment regarding minority cultures. It's important to remember that the context of the artist and lyrics is vital to understand the true message of it. Misinterpretations of a work will bastardize the meaning and give an unfair interpretation of what rap music represents. It is important to understand hip-hop and rap in order to battle ignorance, gain a better understanding of other American people and cultures, and generally progress as a society through this understanding. I hope this presentation was educational and informed about hip-hop's relationship to the American power structure. Thank you very much once again for joining me, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.